We're going to discuss the essential tools that you're going to need for your t-shirt business. So what heat press do I need? How many heat presses do I need? What type of heat press should I get? Do I need a printer? Do I need a vinyl cutter? Do I need to get sublimation? Do I need to get DTG? All of those questions there are super important, and it's the reason why so many people never get started, because they're overwhelmed with all of the different printers and technologies that they see out there on social media. And my goal to this lesson right here is to steer you the right direction. And I shared the story that when I started, I didn't even have equipment, but eventually I ended up diving into so many different pieces of equipment, especially when we moved the business out of the house, right? We moved the business out the house. Now we're in a storefront. So I felt the need to invest in all the fancy equipment. And I'm talking about large format printers, large format heat presses, large format heat presses, sublimation, DTG. Like, there's not a print method that's been out there that I actually did not invest into. But then I quickly realized that all of those things were just stuff that I wanted to buy just to make myself look good, or to look busy, or to look successful. And at the end of the day, I find myself using just my heat press and some heat transfers. So the essential tools that I would recommend today, after I've made all those mistakes, and I want you to not make those mistakes, is going to be a heat press and a vinyl cutter. All right, so most people won't tell you about a vinyl cutter because we feel as if nowadays, because we have DTF, we don't need to cut vinyl. But I want to break that myth and let you understand that you still need to learn the basics of how t-shirts were printed before the DTF and all of this stuff came about. And that was with a vinyl cutter. Basically, I happen to have one right here, right? This is a Silhouette 5, and there's a bunch of different ones that you can get. I also have a Romeo. I also have a Caesar Romeo right there, and that is a 24. So this happens to be a 12-inch vinyl cutter. And the way this works, basically, if you're not familiar, you put a vinyl in here, which is a heat transfer material. You will load it up in here into the software, which is the Silhouette Studio, right? You would craft up something like, oh, a name, a number, and the machine now would go and cut that out and create the stencil, of which you would just weed the vinyl and apply that using heat. All right. So, and the reason why a vinyl cutter is one of the essential tools that is on this list, because even though you use screen printed transfers, there's going to be a time where you would get that one shirt where the customer just want a name on it, right? They just want a number or something like that. And this is where your vinyl cutter can come into play. Or maybe yourself, you realize, man, I just want to make me a shirt. Like the other day, I wanted to make me a hoodie. I couldn't get DTF transfers in time, so I just turned on my machine and I was able to cut the vinyl and apply it to this hoodie. It's going to be a lesson where we will go step by step on how to use a vinyl cutter to complete a custom job. And I feel like it's super important for you to learn that part. That is the fundamental. If you're beginning here, or even if you know that part, it's okay. You can skip that lesson. But I think it's super important for you to know how to design for vinyl, how to cut the vinyl, how to weed the vinyl, and how to apply the vinyl using your heat press. So which vinyl color should you get? I showed you the Silhouette Studio, which is like a well-known brand, right? The Silhouette cutter is a well-known brand, and this is something that if you were going to look for information on this, you will find so many tutorials on the internet to help you better understand how this works, right? And it has a very user-friendly software. The machine itself, I'll tell you something. When I first started years ago, I was in the shop. I purchased this 24-inch cutter from my cousin. It was the US cutter from, it was the MH721 cutter from US Cutter, and it was a 28-inch cutter. This cutter was great, but it sucked at cutting like the glitter transfers, the brick transfers, and I was struggling with that until I grabbed a Silhouette cutter that changed the game, and I started to love using glitter again. All right, so here's the other vinyl cutter that I have, right? This happens to be the Caesar Romeo. this is a 24-inch cutter, and this one here, you don't need to have it this big, but it is important when you're using bigger rolls of vinyl. You want to grab this one right here, but this is the Romeo. They also have the Juliet, which is the smaller one, the 12-inch, same as that size that I showed you before. This one will be a whole different software. Each one of these will come with its own software. So again, it all depends on where the budget is that you have and how do you look at your business long term. For me, I got this just because I wanted a big piece of equipment, and then I got a company to actually send me this, right? But for you right now, based on the space that you have, you might be better off just grabbing a 12-inch cutter. The Silhouette is a good one. This Caesar is a good one, but maybe just get the Juliet, which would be the 12-inch. Figure out which one really fits your budget. So there's going to be a lesson in the list here that's going to go through both of those cutters. The Silhouette will go through the software, and then we'll cut a vinyl with it and apply onto a shirt. And we'll do the same exact thing with the Caesar Romeo. So you can see the difference there. So here's basically the vinyl that goes into that big cutter right there, right? This comes in a 20-inch roll. All right, so this one right here, the 20-inch roll, is what I would use to add into that big cutter, okay? Then I have this little one right here. It is a 12-inch roll. This is what I would use to fit into my 12-inch cutter. Of course, this one will go into the big cutter, but mainly, most of the times, I'm using the bigger one because I have more of these. So I'm going to include a list down below of these machines and also a hookup or a discount code to the company that we can get those vinyls from. Links are going to be down below attached to this video. All right, so the next piece of equipment is crucial. It is literally the bread and butter of your business, and that's going to be the heat press. So if you're going to save up any money to invest into this business, save up enough to get yourself a good quality heat press. And I know people are going to say, oh, I just need to start off. I can grab one off of Amazon, right? That's true, because myself, I started with an Amazon press. But eventually, you're going to want good quality, because when we start dealing with heat transfers, one of the biggest mistakes that people make with heat transfers is that they're using a low quality heat press. Very important that you grab yourself a heat press that is trustworthy, right? Like it has distribution of the heat is even, it has a good pressure dial, right? And you're able to set the timer on that. So the size that's just going to be important to you is really based on the space that you have for your workshop. Because behind me, I'm going to show you, I have different styles, right? I have the 15 by 15. I have the 16 by 20. I have a pull-out drawer. I have multiple sizes, and some of them are swing away, some of them are clamshells. So you have to determine which heat press is really going to fit your style, and make sure it's a heat press that has even pressure. So let me jump over there and show you the different styles, and we'll talk right through it so you're able to make the decision that you need to make for the benefit of your business. Let's jump over to this heat press.